Hi, everybody. This is Kathy L. Murphy, the Pulpwood Queen, and I'm starting to de-stress because each one of these sessions is going so well. But before we get started, I want to talk to you a little bit about the Pat Conroy Center because my agent and our author that's this session, Deborah Rodriguez and I, MarlyRusoff was our agent. Her husband died, and he was instrumental in the Pat Conroy Center. And I published on the program towards the end everything about. I called him Michael, but it's Mihai. Mihai
Mihai.
is how you pronounce his real name. He had quite a background, and he was instrumental in getting the Pat Conroy money to start that center. So I'm asking everybody that's coming to Girlfriend Weekend and I've got it on the program where you can go to make a donation in memory of Mihai's passing just before Girlfriend Weekend, and to honor the Pat Conroy Center, which is our charity of choice. And just so you know where the ballpark is, last year we raised somewhere over $4,000 to $6,000 every year, and it helps run their Pat Conroy Literary Low Country Book Festival. So, be generous, you guys. This is a wonderful organization it's changing. They do programs every single day for children, adults, on promoting writing, authors, and literacy. And many of the authors that we have get picked for their author in residence, including Jeffrey. Is the latest. Jeffrey Dale Lofton is the latest author that's been picked to be the writers in residence in Beaufort. Congratulations to Jeffrey. And I encourage all of my authors to apply for that. That Pulpwood Queen stamp is a pretty good indication that you're a good author to support. So anyway, it's all up on the website, on the program, on www.thepulpwoodqueens.com. Now, Deb is a hairdresser, and she is from, here in the United States, but she wrote a book that Marly brought my attention to, our agent. That book won our book of the year. So I want you to just tell a little bit about that story, and then we'll get into your new one. So, because they need to know your background.
Right.
Deborah.
We need to go to the past to go to the future, right?
So tell everybody that story.
This is the first book. It's called the Kabul Beauty School. And I went to Afghanistan in 2002 on a disaster relief program. And when I was there, I was pretty much useless because I didn't have any medical, training. It was a medical team, but I am a hairdresser. So I began to cut hair, and every reporter in town was in Afghanistan, following what was going on. And so therefore, I began cutting hair, doing a lot of hair. And that's when I decided that maybe I should think about opening up a beauty school, because I noticed that the hairdressers had all gone underground, as they are right now too. And so that's what I did, is I packed up my wares, and I made a phone call. I'm that 800 number on the shampoo bottles. I called the number on the Paul Mitchell bottle, and John Paul DeJoria, he called me back, and he says, "What do you need?" I said, "Everything." And he said, "Okay." And that was it. And so the first book is basically the story of me going to Afghanistan. And it was a wild ride. And it ended in a attempted kidnapping plot. And that's kind of where Kathy stepped in, because I was doing I was traumatized, to say the least, and having to do a book tour. And so Kathy kind of mothered me and welcomed me into the flock of all the pulpwood queens and kings and timber guys and all that. So that was I think we really bonded at that point because
Yes.
hairdressers bond because we're a quirky group. And I do want you to realize I do have a tiara.
And she also has pink hair. We look like
And I
sisters.
have
I'm
pink hair.
serious.
I did the pink hair for the occasion. My tiara, the crown is heavy. So so that's basically how it all started with me. And I from that point on, I after I left Afghanistan in 2007, I moved to Mexico. I'm in Mazatlan, Mexico right now. And at that point, the journey after leaving Afghanistan was tough. And I think people forget about reverse culture shock and post-traumatic stress. And then, but it was like Mexico, you know how it's basically how I got my groove back, so to speak. And so then I wrote Margarita Wednesday. And so that those are the two nonfiction books. But in the middle of all that, when I was in Afghanistan, I opened up a coffee shop. I was doing hair. I had the school. I had a beauty shop. I was honestly loving my life in Afghanistan. And I opened up like a coffee shop. It was the coolest place in the world. And I enjoyed every second of it. I mean, my big thing is we had missionaries, mercenaries, and misfits. That was my clientele. And it was like, I would have to grab people's guns. It's like, okay, guys, how many times did I tell you have to put these in the closet? And so after I got back from Afghanistan and I had published the first novel or first nonfiction book, I wanted to continue telling my stories. I just did not want to do them in a nonfiction format. And so that's when I wrote The Little Coffee Shop of Kabul. So this is the book we're talking about today. So this is a 3-part series. They're all standalone. The Little Coffee Shop, Return to the Little Coffee Shop, and Farewell to the Little Coffee Shop. So they're standalones. But that was, so basically, these characters began like during the beginning part of the US being in Afghanistan. And so you're able to see development or all the things that happen, but from a different perspective. You're seeing it from an Afghan perspective. You're seeing it from a foreigner working perspective. You're seeing it from somebody like me who's living there, making their life there, and who's left and who has their loved ones, and people they love still in Afghanistan during this last thing in 2021 when Afghanistan was taken over by the Taliban. Do you want me to continue?
Listen, I just have to tell everybody, you escaped with your life from Afghanistan with your son. And what she went through is amazing. And she's got a beautiful spa in Mexico now. And I want to talk about that, what you're doing with young women there in a minute. But when she left, I've had her come to my shop. I had grand openings. I've had her to girlfriend weekend. And one of the things, she left a box with these bangles.
Oh,
and she calls me and she said, "Did I leave?" And I go, "What?" And I said, "Yes." And she goes, "Oh, I can't. That's the only thing I got out of Afghanistan with was those bracelets." And I said, "I'll get it." And you got them, right? You got the bracelets back.
I did.
But what is amazing is nobody could understand why you did what you did until you came and told your story at Girlfriend Weekend. In fact, there were a few people that were a little upset by the story. But when they heard Debbie talk about it, and we voted for the book, of the year, it was unanimous. They all voted that the Kabul Beauty School was the book of the year. And so a lot of people think the Pulpwood Queens is never been an international book club. It's always been an international book club.
Always, yeah.
Always picked international authors. And it's all about building bridges. And that's what we've been doing, Debbie. Whether I'm going to come and see you in Mexico. In fact, I'm coming to Mexico maybe this summer. So, but not your part. It's a long story, but we'll talk later. But anyway,
Mexico, I can come visit you while you're in Mexico.
I'm going to be in Mexico City. Okay. I'll keep you posted on this. And so anyway, but we formed a relationship because she is an incredible hairdresser and a great colorist. I mean, I knew her as a redhead, and now she's got this pink, she's been blonde. She's like me. We're always changing our looks, but she is the bravest person I've ever seen in my life. You work with Beauty Beyond Borders, you've worked with helping women, and you created a sanctuary for them in Afghanistan because men don't go into beauty shops.
Right.
And so they had a place where they were safe and they could take off, and I remember seeing a wedding that you showed me a tape of a wedding that you attended. We just have no idea until we read these stories what women are going through in other parts of the country. And many of my authors that are here know, because your books, and you and Laura Bernhardt, all of you guys have written stories about the patriarchy and what's happening. But continue telling your story and tell them a little bit about Tippy Toes.
Well, Tippy Toes, I came back from when I moved to Mexico. It's really funny. What I've learned about myself is people say, well, where is home? And I never could quite, Michigan was home for me, but I was raised in a beauty shop. And so I could always find my home when I was in a salon. And so I was in Mexico, but I didn't come home until I actually put a salon there. And so I have a salon, and we've trained quite a few young women to, in hairdressing and nails, manicure, estheticians. So all my girls that work for me here in Mexico are, trained in the salon. And, but I don't know if you know this, Kathy. So since Afghanistan was taken over by the Taliban, I evacuated, I don't know, 80, 90 people, something like that, a lot of people. And I now have a full beauty school in Pakistan for Afghan refugees. So, we've just gone around the sun again. So yeah.
Where is it in Pakistan? Where is it?
It's in Rawalpindi. So it's right outside of Islamabad, right outside of Islamabad.
I have a new friend from there, and he's
good.
invited me to come visit his family. I love this. Okay.
Well, yeah. So then you can come to the school. So yeah. So we've trained probably over 100 and some girls. Because basically the whole idea was, I was an American NGO. And so in order for people could get a P2 visa if they worked for an American NGO. So therefore they had worked for me. And so I evacuated hairdressers, like lots of them. And so I thought, well, we've got hairdressers. A lot of them were in Pakistan, some were in Turkey, some got to the United States. And so I thought, well, it's hard to live as a refugee. Nobody wants to be a refugee. So I decided to utilize them as teachers. And we've been training young refugee girls in Pakistan to, so it's been good. Very good.
When I had one of my girlfriend weekends in Nacogdoches, I had a young man and a bunch of students come in on a lunch break. And his name was Sema Mustafa. Mustafa Salman, and he was from Pakistan, and he loves reading, and he was on a Homeland Security student exchange at Stephen F. Austin. But anyway, he entered the Timber Guy competition in full Pakistani dress, and he won. And so I know him. He's one person I know in Pakistan. He's now an architect, and his wife is a professional makeup artist, and she does the weddings.
Oh,
And
wow.
oh my God, she is so stunningly beautiful. But we'll have to talk. We'll have to talk.
We got a lot to talk about. A lot of talk.
Yeah, we have.
To talk.
It's been a long time since we've talked, but
I know
what you're doing there. And you told me that some of the girls that you met at the gym when you first started going to the gym to work out, and they ended up working in your
you know what, it's been really nice in Mexico. You know, I mean, I'm around young women and they're all making a living for their family doing hairdressing. It was nice to put girls to school. You know, I'm an author, but honestly, first I'm a hairdresser. I'm always a hairdresser,
You're
right?
always a hairdresser, aren't you?
You're always the hairdresser. And so I have found that hairdressing is empowering. And because we're more than just hairdressers, right? We are the shoulder people can lean on. We were those people that were missed during COVID for sure, because everybody got a little woolly. And but you know, so yeah, so it's and it's like when you're listening to people all day long, I still do hair. I still do hair 4 days a week at the salon. And I now just opened up a store. And I think about your place when you did Beauty and the Book, right? I opened up a store right next to the salon, and I'm like selling my Afghan jewelry. I'm selling art. I think about you all the time, Kathy, because your store salon inspired me so much. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So now I'm incorporating art. I can sell my books. I got shampoo, and you know what I mean? It's like art and shampoo and Afghan tribal jewelry. I mean, it doesn't get better than that, right? So it's fun.
But you're building bridges, man. You are really inspiring to me. Always have.
What was so, I mean, so the birth of this book was, you know, when you're having a baby, you know, some babies are easier to birth than others, right? When I watched the fall of Afghanistan to the Taliban, and everything that I had worked for the past 20 years just dissipated overnight. My phone was blowing up with everybody begging to be evacuated. Oh, you know, it was the hardest time one of the hardest times in my life. It ranks right up there, Kathy, to when you met me, when I was having such a hard time. This was there, and I'm sure that relief workers and firefighters and police officers and stuff like that understand the feeling of somebody is going to die if you don't do something. And as I'm the hairdresser, I should not have been involved in the evacuation, but because of things, I was. And I should not have been. I'm not trained to work evacuations. I'm not trained to do manifest on airlines. You know, I'm not trained for this, but there was probably about 1,000 of us that had all lived in Afghanistan, and we formed a group and we started helping and trying to get the people out, along with the military, the military who had worked side by side with Afghans. We were connecting with them, and it was this like grassroots project because we couldn't leave our people behind. And it was all encompassing. I think that I didn't go to work. I froze right where I'm at now, sitting at this computer. I turned my phone off, or I didn't answer my messages, I should say. I did not speak to my grandchildren, my children. I didn't go to work, my partner. Nobody heard from me. I basically, I couldn't sleep because I would wake up in that feeling like, oh my goodness, I've missed an evacuation. I've spelled somebody's name wrong on the manifest. They're not going to get, they're going to die. It was horrible. And so I was actually, Marley, it was one of Marley's book. She was the agent for a young girl, an Afghan girl who got stuck in Afghanistan with her son. And Marley, myself, and different, the publisher, and I think a Norwegian ambassador came into the mix, and we were trying to get her out because she wrote a book called Dancing in the Mosque, and that was going to get her killed for sure. And I flew to San Diego to try to get her out. And because I was working with my team, and I mean, nobody could get to the airport. People were dying, they were being crushed, the atrocities that were happening just at the airport alone were beyond. I mean, and these videos were popping into my inbox all the time, and because everybody's just trying to survive, and it was really tough. And and I've got my 90 that I'm trying to get out. And I think at that time I had about 168 people that I was working with. And we were seconds from getting this young woman out and her son. And that's when there was the explosion at the airport. And we lost that evacuation. I mean, on the flip side of that, Marley went into action, and I don't know how many favors she called in, but a young man that was on the inside of the airport, he got her out. She was the last person to get out through the CIA secret gate. And so she did get out. She's in the States, but it was very traumatizing. So it was after that evacuation, and I'm driving back from San Diego to the border of Mexico. And now you remember I had the Kabul, the little coffee shop, right? So I wrote that book. I had this all set up. I had my characters. They were wonderful. They were fun. Then the second book kind of takes the main character, who was similar to me, who left Afghanistan, and it's like giving Afghanistan back, giving the coffee house to the Afghans. So it's this whole full circle thing. And I'm sitting in the car, and writing a book was the furthest thing from my mind, because first of all, I hadn't slept in like 3 weeks. And it was I don't know if it was being sleep deprived. I don't know what happened, but this overwhelming sense of weeping. I had to pull over to the side of the road, and I'd been hearing stories. Like, sometimes to talk about it, it's really hard. I'd been hearing so many stories, and my characters came alive. And they said, "What about us? What's happening to us? Did you forget about us?" And I'm like, oh my God, I cannot write up this. And that was how that book was born. And so this is it. Farewell to the little coffee shop of Kabul. And it was born on the side of the road, weeping. And I'm sorry, I do get emotional when I talk about it, because
I do, just listening to you. Oh my gosh, you are changing
well,
people's
you know what?
lives.
These are my friends, but these are fiction, but they're as close to fact as possible. So the experiences that I had, and when you read it, you will know, you know, right? It's it was tough. And the thing is now many of them are back in Afghanistan because they were kicked out of Pakistan. And so, honestly, there's underground salons. People are still doing hair. I don't know what's going to happen. It's not a happy ending. There's some happy endings for some. The country, it's troubling right now. I don't know what's going to happen. My school is still going. We went from doing a school to doing safe houses and back to now school. So it's been a ride. Like I see my Afghan journey from 2002 with this little baby here to this. It's like, oh my God, it has been like, somehow my life has always been in Afghanistan, and just weaving in and out of all the stuff. So I do believe that book feels like the book that needs to be read, right? Like it really gives a voice to the Afghans. I worked with a lot of Afghans, both the ones that were in Pakistan. I worked with Afghans still in Afghanistan. This was all while they're refugees, right? I worked with Afghans that had been in the States for a while. I worked with Afghans that were trying to get out, that were still stuck in Afghanistan. I had advisors for this book that was able to tell the story that if an Afghan read it, like, oh yeah, that's it. So that's that book.
It's, you guys, yes, Janet. You have a question?
Yeah, one of the book clubs I belong to is all retired reading teachers. So I want to know which one of the books should I recommend? Is the latest one to recommend?
You know what? I mean, it depends on. I like them all. I don't know. It depends on where you want to start from the beginning, or you want to. This is standalone, so you'll read this, but then you're going to want to come back and read this, and then you're going to want to come back and read this to see how it began, and then you're going to think, oh, what's she doing now? So,
well, your story.
I don't even.
It's so compelling. I'm just like here. And my group is really amazing. We read all kinds of stuff, fiction and nonfiction.
Well, yeah, start with this one. Seeing this is the newest one. Start with that, and then you can back it up, because it doesn't matter. If you start in the beginning, listen, the characters it is meant as a standalone. So it's fine if you do read, you don't have to read the first one to get. And Anju, thank you again for everything you've done. She read and blurbed, and Kathy did too. I really appreciate that. It's amazing. And your books are amazing, by the way.
Amazing. You've read the second one, haven't you? Oh my God.
Yeah.
So good. I'm telling you, I am so proud.
You get the life. You get it.
Deborah,
it's a world.
Deborah, I don't just get it, I've lived it. And
right.
When I read your book, what really made me think was, especially when you get to like the 50 to 75% mark, and it's not just these women who are struggling to keep things together. The actual world is falling apart. You've got bombs, missiles, concrete buildings falling all around them. They're trying to get themselves to safety. Then you've got the Taliban, who is dragging people out on the streets. It's chaos. And yet what really shone through the story was, one is, we talk about diverse characters in America, but they're not diverse for us, are they?
No.
Because they're who we are. And so, but within that level of diversity, you've got diverse levels of courage that shines through. And I'm like, where did this come from? And that's what I wanted to ask you. Where did that level of courage within each character come from to pull through and make it through to the light? Was it organic?
It is like, because these characters originated so long ago, right? That they have been simmering and developing, and you know, because this is a trilogy, right? That they had a lot of character development already, and you know these people, they're your friends, right? Everybody has been a part of my life somehow. Oh, Kat, I do want to tell you one thing. There's books that I don't have here. One is Island on the Edge of the World, and the other one's The Moroccan Daughter. There's a character in there, and because those aren't printed in the United States, so that's why I didn't grab them for this. But I have a character that's you, you know.
Oh,
Her name is B. Yes, she's my favorite. She's a hairdresser. She's blind, has gone blind, but I used your salon and you are her. So I didn't know if I ever told you that, but yeah. So yeah, you were. So it's people, you know, you get that inspiration of a character, and yeah, so I think that's, and because with the Afghan one, because I lived it so deeply, it's hard not to, you know, everybody's a part of my life. And that's probably, it feels like more like I wrote a nonfiction book, I think. And that's why it's on that deeper level.
That's how it read for me, like a nonfiction.
Yeah. Yeah.
It didn't
you
feel like,
guys, I am actually hate this. We're running out of time. So I want to continue the conversation. So if there's anything you want to post on the Pulpwood Queen Presents page on Facebook or on the international page, but I think, Deborah, that you and I should do a conference and tape it and post that for everybody later.
That would be nice. Yeah.
Both, because I think having this conversation needs to be explored. And
I would love to do that.
Let's do it. But right now we've got Jamie Ford coming up next.
Oh, yay.
And yay, Jamie. So we're going to take a quick break. Oh my God, we've got to catch up. So after this weekend, I'll get with you and we'll plan that. And Angie, I'll get with you too. So God bless you. You're such an inspiration. And I swear, you guys, she is the bravest woman I've ever met.
Can I just quickly add something? When I came to the US after 9/11 and Afghanistan was in this horrific issue with the Taliban, I saw Deborah's book, the Kabul Beauty School, and I was like, who is this author? And I wasn't a writer of fiction novels, and I was just an international journalist. And so when I read your book and I had the honor of blurbing it, I was like, oh my God, I get to blurb this amazing.
You're so funny.
And when we landed here and I'm like, where am I? And you are now that author who's come with this amazing, incredible trilogy that took me back to when we first came here.
Oh, wow. Wow. It's so
everybody
nice
needs to read all of her books, as all of you guys is. I'm telling you, I picked the best books. I really do. But I have to thank Marly, because Marly Rusoff, who was my literary agent, brought her to my attention, as she has brought so many. And don't forget to contribute to the Pat Conroy Center. But we've got to go because Jamie's coming up next. So quick break, Debbie, stay on board. You're just go to the next link and get on, and we'll keep this all going, everybody.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Oh, man.